So I'll read the translation, and we'll just make sure. Okay. So I don't know how much light I need. Just tell me if I'm sitting in the shadow. Okay. So
turn that light on, I think. That one. Okay.
See. Here's the translation, and oh, that's good. Thank you. Here. So it's, he who brought the treasure of divine love, I don't have to do this. It's really an austerity. He who brought the treasure of divine love, and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees, in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Jayananda Prabhu Ki.
Jai.
So, I can just say a few quick things that I know if anybody wants to share. There's a very long purport today, but anyway. I didn't know he was Jayananda when I first met him. It was on Christmas Day, 1970, in San Francisco, I was leaving to go back to New York, and I had been going out with the bishop in Harinam, and I had some extra money. So I thought, well, I think I'll give the Hare Krishna as a Christmas present. And I went over and gave him $100. And I believe it was Chitsukananda was the president at the time. And he was so, wow, $100. Wait right here. I have something I want to give you. I said, what? He said, it's a book. I said, well, I already have the Bhagavad Gita. He said, no, you got to get this. So he could, but stand here and talk to him. He was tall, really big, very serene, sober. And I said, okay. And so he looked at me, and very quietly he said, you know, my spiritual master told me that I am a fit candidate for perfection, that I can attain perfection. And you know, looking at you, I think you have the same qualities. I think you too can become perfect. And just the way he said it, it just kind of really touched me. You know, it was so, I really felt that this person really wasn't just trying to, like, you know, play me in some way. I really felt that he was very sincere, and it left a big impression on me. So some other things that I know about, there was a discussion once with some of Prabhupada's disciples about who started book distribution. And there was a couple of devotees saying, I think so-and-so did. And then someone else said, no, it was this one. And they were going back and forth. And then Prabhupada said, no, you're all wrong. It was Jayananda. Is that not right, Jayananda? And he was in the back. Either they were on a walk and he was in the back and he wasn't really hearing what was going on, or he might have been in the back of a darshan room like this, because he worked so much he'd fall asleep in the back. And Prabhupada always said, that is all right. So when he said, what is that, Prabhupada? And somebody said, Prabhupada says you started book distribution. He said, I don't know about that. He said, no, it's true. It is loaded. You look in the beginning of the TLC, the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, he's thanking his disciple Jayananda. He had given a $5,000 donation, and this was like, 1967 or something like that. It was a fortune, And he was driving a taxi at the time. And he gave $5,000 for the printing of the TLC, and Prabhupada noted that and said, that was the beginning of my book distribution, that donation that Jayananda gave. Another thing I remember is it was around 1975 or 76, I was just becoming a temple president, and someone came up to me and said, they just, Jayananda has become either the co-president or the president of San Francisco, and he really doesn't want to do it. And this devotee knew that I didn't really want to do it either. And he said to me, you know where his office is? I said, where's that? He said, well, at this time of day, he's down at the kitchen sink washing pots. If you want to go see him and talk to him about some temple problems, or the problems you're having, you can go down there and help him wash pots. At that time of the day, he's outside working on a vehicle. So he was, in other words, Jayananda was out doing service. He didn't have like official desk, greeting like that. He was always engaged in service. And that really, I admired that. And then one other time, I'll tell you this one pastime I heard Keshava Bharati tell his story, who was very close with Jayananda. And this was 1976, and it was the first New York Rath Yatra going down Fifth Avenue. And this was a big deal for Prabhupada, because this is where he started the movement, Fifth Avenue in New York. This is the main street in the main city of the world. It was a big moment. And Jayananda had been working all day, all night, not sleeping. And very late one night, in one of the common area bathrooms, Keshava Bharati walked in. He saw Jayananda, and he was completely bent over like this. And when Keshavarti came in, he tried to get up and stand up. He goes, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" He said, "It's nothing, it's nothing." He said, "No, tell me, I can see something's wrong." He said, "If I tell you, if I show you, you promise you'll never say anything to anyone." He said, "I swear, I promise." He lifted up his arm, and right here, he had lymphoma, or no, leukemia, but it affected his lymph glands. He had a huge tumor. But he was, during the day, and most of the night he was working on the Roth cart. He never showed any pain. And I remember specifically, I had a conversation with him right after the parade at, what is that? What is the name of that park? Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, it's a famous park where they have an archway that's like the archway in France. What is it called? Anyway, that's where the end of the parade was, and Prabhupada gave a talk on the stage. And Bhagavatam and I were talking to him about the Rath Yatra that we were about to do in Atlanta. It was our first one. And I was kind of bragging about, we came up with this design that we can have the thing telescope up and down because there's lots of wires and tree branches. And I was like bragging like we had come up with it. And he never let on that he'd been doing that same design for years. He just said, "Oh, very nice, very nice." He was so humble. And when I look back on it, I feel like, just, really silly. Just, like I'm talking to Mr. Rath Yatra. Like I'm so proud of what and I was making a fool of myself. But he never let on. He was very humble. And those are my memories of him. And there's lots of stories like that where, he'd be in the darshan room in the back, and he'd fall asleep, and Prabhupada never minded. Anyone else, he would, but not Jayananda. There is a photograph, and I've heard, and I don't know if it's true, this is a photograph where you see Prabhupada walking through Golden Gate Park, and you see this very tall man with like sort of a crew cut, and a jacket, like a fall type jacket, and he's staring at this Indian man, and that was Jayananda. And someone told me that was the actual first time I ever saw Prabhupada. It was an actual photograph of the first time he saw Prabhupada, and it's really shows a lot of devotion and love and respect in that one glance. Excuse me. Anyway, that's some of my memories, and I was told that Prabhupada wanted us to observe. And he's on every Rath Yatra cart around the world. Just like Jamuna's Govindam prayers that, Mukunda and all those devotees worked on. And that's played all over the world. And they tried to stop that back in the days because it had a rock feel to it. But now it's Prabhupada insisted, no, this is like a he called it some kind of Vaishnava symphony. He thought it was beautiful. He loved that. So, so that's Jayananda Prabhu. He's someone to aspire for. He's very stoic. That's the way I think that stoicism is like, I forget the man is famous. I think he was Greek. One of his quotes is, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth." That means hearing is more important than speaking. That's one of the principles of Stoicism. And so Jayananda was always busy engaging people. One other one. This one devotee, he came by, and he was into finding different gurus and trying different paths and trying to find that spiritual bliss. And so he met Jayananda, and Jayananda's working real hard. I think I'm building a cart or fixing a truck to pull a cart, and he's working really hard, and he's really blissful the whole time. And he thought, if this guy's this blissful, working like this, there must be something to this Hare Krishna movement. And he just, he was just inspired by how absorbed he was in that service, and it wasn't like, standing up and giving the big talk or leading the big kirtan, but it was getting his hands dirty and doing some service, and he was really respectful, humble, and blissful. Not, frustrated and angry. And, so anyway, just thought I'd mention some things about him. So I will do anything else anyone would like to say? Yes?
Question. So did Keshava Bharati keep that as a secret, or did people eventually find out?
Yeah, well, shortly after that, but he didn't do it before the parade. But he didn't want, because then he thought Prabhupada would take him off his service. And he passed away about 6 months before Prabhupada in May of 1977. And this was July of 1976. But it started, he'd always had, I believe it's leukemia, and he had it but it was really starting to become more and more serious, and I think he was probably bedridden for at least the last few months of his life. I believe he was out in LA or someplace like that. But he didn't say anything to anyone before the parade. I don't know when he told anyone, but he talks about it in his on Siddhanta's memory series. He mentioned it. And if you don't know Keshava Bharati is, he has that place in Govardhan, around Govardhan Hill that was purchased by Giriraj Maharaj and Tamal Krishna. It's like a place for studying, and a lot of devotees go there. Vaisheshika has like a retreat there in the month of Kartik, and they read the Bhagavatam for so many hours a day.
That ashram?
It's like an ashram, but it's also like
Like a castle.
and say an academy, yeah. So and that building was there, and the Giriraj and Tamal Goswami, they were one time visiting, and they saw it was for sale. They purchased it, and Keshava Bharati was put in charge to manage that place. So he was also Keshava Bharati Maharaj was one of the sort of elite big book distributors in ISKCON. That was his main service with the Radha Damodar party. So, but they were all elite, small or big, Okay, so Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Is that Padma? Could you give Prabhupada a book? His book is there. Can you turn to chapter 9, text 2.
Lift it up a little bit more.
Is that the right verse?
Yes.
Chapter 9, text 2. Do you know how to put his glasses on? Thank you. I'll just forego the Jayarada Madhava. Was that an offense?
No, it's good.
Okay. Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Naruttamam
Naram Chaiva Naruttamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayam Mudiriye.
Tato Jayam Mudiriye.
Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the Supreme Human Being, Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Nama Om Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Putale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharini Visesha Sunyavadi Paskita Desatarine. So, and by the way, the deities are absolutely beautiful. Of course, they're always beautiful, but they really look spectacular.
They do. They do.
Yes. So, really hard for me to say for some reason. Okay. Bahu.
Bahu.
Let's see if I can move this a little bit. See how that helps. I think I need, oh, that's good. Yeah, thank you. And then there was light. Bahu.
Bahu.
Rupa.
Rupa.
Iva Bhati.
Ivavati.
Mayaya.
Maya.
Oh, sorry. Bahurupa Ivavati.
Bahurupa Ivavati.
Mayaya.
Maya.
Bahu.
Bahu.
Rupaya.
Rupaya.
Mayaya Bahurupaya.
Maya. Bahurupaya.
Brahmano.
Brahmano.
Guneshu.
Guneshu.
Asha.
Asha.
Brahmananu. Guneshu Asha. Did I say that? Brahmano Guneshu Asha. Mahaham. Iti. Manyate. Maham iti manyate. Bahurupa Ivavati. Ayaya Bahurupaya. Brahmana Guneshu Asha. Maham iti manyate. Bahurupa Ivavati. Mayaya Bahurupaya. Brahmana Guneshu Asha. Mamaham iti manyate. Bahurupa Ivavati. Mayaya Bahurupaya. Brahmano Guneshu Asha. Maham iti manyate. Someone else?
Bahurupa Ivavati.
Bahurupa Ivavati.
Mayaya Bahurupaya.
Mayaya Bahurupaya.
Brahmano Guneshvasya. Maham iti manyate.
Maham iti manyate.
Bahurupa Ivavati.
Bahurupa Ivavati.
Maya Bahurupaya.
Mayaya Bahurupaya.
Ramamano Guneshvasya.
Ramamano Guneshvasya.
Mamaham iti manyate.
Maham iti manyate.
Bahurupa Ivavati.
Bahurupa Ivavati.
Maya Bahurupaya.
Mayaya Bahurupaya.
Ramamano Guneshvasya.
Ramamano Guneshvasya.
Mamaham iti manyate.
Maham iti manyate.
Bahurupa Ivavati.
Bahurupa
Ivavati.
Mayaya Bahurupaya.
Mayaya Bahurupaya.
Ramamanu Guneshvasya.
Ramamano Guneshvasya.
Mamaham iti manyate.
Mamaham iti manyate.
Bahurupa Ivavati.
Bahurupa Ivavati.
Mayaya Bahurupaya.
Mayaya Bahurupaya.
Ramamano Guneshvasya.
Ramamano Guneshvasya.
Mamaham iti manyati.
Mamaham iti manyate. So, word for word. Bahurupa,
Bahurupa.
multi-forms.
Multiform.
Iva, as it were.
As it were.
Abati,
Bhakti.
manifest.
Manifest.
Mayaya,
Maya.
by the influence of the exterior energy.
By the influence of the exterior energy.
Bahurupaya,
Bahurupaya.
in multifarious forms.
In multifarious forms.
Ramamana,
Ramamana.
enjoying as it were.
Enjoy as it were.
Guneshu,
Guneshu,
in the modes of different qualities.
in the modes of different qualities.
Asha,
Asya,
of the external energy.
of the external energy.
Mama,
Mama,
mine.
mine.
Aham,
Aham,
I.
I.
Iti,
Iti,
thus.
thus.
Manyate,
Manyate,
thinks. Translation. The illusion living entity appears in so many forms offered by the external energy of the Lord. While enjoying in the modes of material nature, the encaged living entity misconceives thinking in terms of I and mine. Please repeat. The illusion living entity
the illusion living entity
appears in many forms
appears in many forms
offered by the external energy of the
offered
Lord.
by the external energy.
While enjoying in the modes
While enjoying the modes
of material nature.
of material nature.
The encaged living entity
The caged living entity
misconceives
misconceives,
thinking in terms
thinking in terms
of I and mine.
of I and mine.
Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
The different forms of the living entities are different dresses offered by the illusory external energy of the Lord, according to the modes of nature the living being desires to enjoy. The external material energy is represented by her three modes, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. So even in the material nature, there is a chance of an independent choice by the living entity. And according to his choice, the material energy offers him different varieties of material bodies. There are 900,000 varieties of material bodies in the water, 2 million vegetable bodies. Wow.
Wow.
How many?
Wow,
Where are they? How many do we have out there now?
You mean species? You mean
Types.
different types?
Yeah.
2 million types. So
I'm
2
sure
million
there's like some
vegetable bodies. Because it's not just here on Earth,
Right.
all over
Universe.
the universe. But by the way, everybody who's, it's really been quite inspiring to see everybody, pitching in and going out into the garden and working, doing the needful. I mean, this is one of the, I'm in my 70s, and, I've been through a lot of things in America, and this is one of the most difficult times that I've ever seen the world go through. And it's a very stressful time, and having to wear the mask, and understanding what is the disease, where it came from, who's got it, who doesn't have it, and whose fault is it, blah 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 blah. But then also you have to change your lifestyle. No, I don't have to change my lifestyle, blah blah blah. But it's a very, very difficult time, but it's very purifying also. I mean, actually, people are having to, although they're trying to force them to go back to slaughtering the animals, but, the companies don't want to do it. They don't want to produce meat anymore, and the president ordered, no, you have to do it. But actually, you see Krishna and Mother Bhumi, they're taking charge. They're purifying, changing our activities. So, but I really commend everybody for being so, being able to adjust themselves and to be so respectful and kind to one another. It's really quite touching to see. It's not easy. For me, it's very difficult to be nice. Or respectful. No, I mean, just, it's really something. And actually this farm, like I was saying, that I was on the morning walk with Srila Prabhupada in Atlanta. I'll get back to the purport in a second. But this is important because we just mentioned 2 million vegetables. That Prabhupada saw the skyline of Atlanta, and it was very small at the time, but he took his cane like a teacher, and he said, you see this city? Not just this city. I was standing right over this shoulder right here. And I looked around like that, and he said, this city, you see this city? Not just this city, but all cities, soon, they will all starve. And we're like, and he said, do you know why? And there was a moment, and then Tamal Krishnamara said, because they don't know how to grow their own food. So this was 1975, shortly around this time. This is when this place was bought, when Tennessee Farm, Geenagri, all these different farms started popping up. So, but it's taken so long, to really grasp. And there are places around the world where devotees have, it's more part of their culture. But America's so industrialized, it's difficult for us to change our lifestyle. So, but this is, all of a sudden now, we're put in a position where we need to grow our own food. And we need to make plans to have a stock like we had for Y2K, the wheat. We can do this, and the only way we can do it is by working together and being on the same page. Of course, there'll still be other things that have to go on. We need Lakshmi and so on. But anyway, I just wanted to thank everybody and express my appreciation. Unfortunately, I'm not able to physically go out there and do those things, but I'm very appreciative. 1,100,000 worms and reptiles. Have you found, how many types of worms have you found out there? 1 million forms of birds. Is that a bird trying to come in?
Yeah.
3 million different bodies of beasts. 400,000 human forms. Katja says there's a bird that she hears that says, "Hurrah!" she said, it's possible. Altogether, there are 8,400,000 varieties of bodies in different planets of the universe. The living entity is traveling by so many transmigrations according to different modes of enjoying spirit within himself. Even in one particular body, the living entity changes from childhood to boyhood, from boyhood to youth, from youth to old age, and from old age to another body, created by his own action. The living entity creates his own body by his personal desires, and the external energy of the Lord supplies him the exact form by which he can enjoy his desires to the fullest extent. The tiger wanted to enjoy blood of another animal, and therefore, by the grace of the Lord, the material energy supplied him, the body of the tiger, with facilities for enjoying blood from another animal. Similarly, a living entity desiring to get the body of a demigod in a higher planet can also get it by the grace of the Lord. And if he is intelligent enough, he can desire to get a spiritual body to enjoy the company of the Lord, and he will get it. So the minute freedom of the living entity can be fully utilized, and the Lord is so kind that he will award the living entity the same type of body he desires. The living entity's desiring is like dreaming of a golden mountain. A person knows what a mountain is, and he knows also what gold is. Out of his desire only, he dreams of a golden mountain. And when the dream is over, he sees something else in his presence. He finds in his awakened state that there is neither gold nor a mountain, what to speak of a golden mountain. The different positions of the living entities in the material world under multifarious and manifestations of bodies are due to the misconception of mine and I. The karmi thinks of this world as mine, and the jnani thinks I am everything. The whole material conception of politics, sociology, philanthropy, altruism, etc., conceived by the conditioned souls, is on the basis of this misconceived I and mine, which are products of a strong desire to enjoy material life. Identification with the body and the place where the body is obtained under different conceptions of socialism, nationalism, family affection, and so on and so forth, is all due to forgetfulness of the real nature of the living entity, and the whole misconception of the bewildered living entity can be removed by the association of Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit, as all this is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Just get some reason I'm really dry today. And I'll read the verse again. The illusion living entity appears in so many forms offered by the external energy of the Lord while enjoying in the modes of material nature. The encaged living entity misconceives thinking in terms of I and mine. So this verse and the verse before, I don't know what the third one's like. Regularly throughout my career as a devotee, I've heard this concept that where do we come from? And even recently, within the last few years, one devotee brings this up about they're perplexed or they want to inquire more. They're very analytical. And there are a lot of things out on the internet that talk about how we come from the Brahmajyoti. So, and there was even a book at one point back when I was up in British Columbia. Some devotees were passing around a book written by one of Prabhupada's disciples, I think, getting all these quotes saying that we actually never were in the spiritual world. We came from the Brahmajyoti. Well, right here, and the verse before, that is finished, because it specifically states, especially in the previous verse, that we were envious of God. We were there, and we wanted to be God. We wanted to enjoy and like God, and we wanted to control like God. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because if you ever hear this kind of discussion, that someone will come along and say, or they question, were we ever in the spiritual world? Did we come from the Brahmajyoti? We just remember 291, 292. You have it, yes?
I was in Maya for 1 year, and I went to Jadharani, Mataji's class, and she was talking about that. So then I went and I asked my Guru Maharaj,
Well, what was she saying? She was saying that
she was just talking about that, like maybe some people may have come from the spiritual world, some people may come from the Brahmajyoti,
right.
some, different like that. And so they had actually brought it to Srila Prabhupada. My Guru Maharaj said that they brought that question to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said, it doesn't really matter where you come from, it's where you're going.
Well, the thing is that it's obvious that some people may have come from the Brahmajyoti because there is an actual process of impersonalism where you practice very strict penances, austerities, and you merge into the effulgence of the Lord. But you've already been here in the Brahmajyoti, in the material world. And but your point is well taken, because it came from Jayataka Maharaj and he was quoting Prabhupada. It's like the example Prabhupada often gave, that you're in a house, you wake up and you smell smoke, the house is on fire, everyone's yelling fire, fire, you don't even recognize where you are. How did I get here? Why am I here? Who started the fire? Well, who cares? Get out! I don't even recognize this place. I just was reading about these two new types, I don't know how new, but they're rather current psychological disorders. One is called depersonalization, and the other one's called derealization. Whereas one has, you can have one or the other, or you can have both. And one of them is, the derealization is, you feel like you're always in a dream. And you feel as if, that you don't really, you're wondering where you are, but you don't recognize it, and you don't remember why you're there. And the depersonalization is, you don't recognize yourself. When you hear your voice, who is that? You see yourself, you don't see this person, you might see your sister or someone else. You don't recognize who you are. And actually the fact is, and then there's another one, which I've mentioned before, it's called Collard's disease. And that person thinks they're living in a dead body. Very interesting, isn't it? Or sometimes they may just think that one of the limbs is dead and should be amputated. It's called walking corpse disease or something. But what's that?
Yeah, that's where they got the Walking Dead.
Yeah, well, I think the Walking Dead are all around us with their smartphones. But that's just my opinion. And so, I'm not trying to insult people with smartphones, but they've sort of taken over people's lives, and they're just, there's no personal contact. There's just contact with that little screen. But, you see people sitting together at a restaurant, and they're not talking to each other, they're looking at their phones, So, but actually, this whole point, Prabhupada said in these purports, and he also explained that this is a daydream, and we have a night dream. We're dreaming. This is not who we are. We're dreaming these things. And the reason it's a dream is because it has a beginning and it has an end. Whereas our permanent existence is forever. We are forever. There is no past, present, future. We are forever. This, when I'm in my dream at night, I really think that, like Prabhupada gave the example that a tiger is chasing me and I'm really frightened. Sometimes you see people, waking up and they're like, and you say, Prabhupada, come on, wait. It's all right. Although some dreams actually are relevant to what actually is happening in your life. So many things that you dream about, at night, they actually create different emotions, real emotions, while you're asleep. But it's a dream. It's not real. Similarly, this body it's constantly changing. It's never the same. From hour to hour, from minute to minute, from day to day, from month to month, from year to year. You look at a picture, I don't remember. That's not me, is it? Do I look like that? We're constantly changing. This is not who we are. Our bodies are always changing. This is part of the dream. And that's confirmed. And so, I remember as when I was in grade school, we would have these things called assemblies, be in our auditorium, and the music teacher would get up and he'd lead us in different songs, and then someone would come in and tell us different stories. And there was one little song that we would sing, and they'd do it in a round. And it was, row, 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 gently down the stream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And that other person would come in, and then you just keep going like that. And so life is but a dream. It's not, that's true. And that's what we were being indoctrinated. Yeah, but the dream is that we're actually, we decided, and this is the part I don't understand, is why I would ever think I can imitate God. Why would I become, but that's where it comes to the point where you just say, it doesn't matter. You're here. Prabhupada explains, we are in quality one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, very minutely. That means we have all of His qualities, and He is the Supreme Enjoyer. He is the Supreme Proprietor. He is the Supreme Ishwar, or Controller. So we have that tendency. We maybe sometimes want to think, well, maybe I can be in charge. Maybe I should be the controller. And once we have that desire, He says, okay. And just imagine, like you say, if you had a handful of pebbles and you threw them all into the water. And I'm not saying that Krishna throws his jivas down into this material world like that. But each pebble, when it hits the water, it creates its own circle of influence. And they all start to collide with one another. When I was younger, we used to play a game called King of the Hill. You know this game? King of the Hill. We have, like just a little hill, and we just fight each other to see who gets on top and try to keep everyone else down. That was the nature of the game.
Did you get up there?
Oh yeah. But you know, it wasn't easy to stay up there. We were just kids. You know, I don't know where the game come from, but that was just one of the many.
It was everywhere though.
Yeah, it was.
It's funny how.
Yeah.
That's how the material world, they say that everything you need to know you learn on the playground.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
So it's just like that, we're always fighting for the top.
Although we would make temporary alliances to get there, and then once you got there, then you push the other one off or something like that. So there were a lot of things like that. So we're in this material world because we desire to come here. And here's another thing. I got about the art. You know, my friend, he sent me. I just the other day, I haven't read all of them, but he sent some of his blogs. And interesting enough, he has a quote from the 4th canto that's relevant to this point. This is from 4th canto, 24th chapter, 63rd verse. And it says, "There is only a material world for those who want to imitate the Lord and become enjoyers. Indeed, the material world is nothing but forgetfulness of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the creator of everything. The distinction between matter and spirit is created by the sleeping energy of the Lord. And when the Lord wants to give some facility to those living entities who want to imitate the Lord in his enjoyment, it is only for them that this material world is created by the dormant energy of the Lord. For instance, sometimes children want to imitate their mother and cook in the kitchen, and at such time the mother supplies them with toys so that the children can imitate her cooking. Similarly, when some of the living entities want to imitate the activities of the Lord, this material cosmic manifestation is created for them by the Lord." You know, I was thinking about this, I remember when I was a kid, all the little girls would get little stoves. Yeah, but we would get little machine guns, G.I. Joes, getting trained up to go. And we thought, oh, it's great fun, yeah.
Swords.
They were training us up. So, this material world is the playground for the living entity, but you can never stay here. You can try to build your little empire, but even if you become very, very successful and conquer, a whole continent or several, how long do you stay? And how long can you control it? You know, there's a list of names of kings of the world. It's just in the 12th canto, I think, the Bhumi Gita. She describes all these tiny, insignificant jivas. They come along and they think they can possess me. They think they can control me. There's so many, it's just a list of names. And they just come and go like dust in the wind. So this is the nature of this material world. We're constantly trying to find some way of enjoying and trying to make some permanent situation for myself. It's like trying to build a house on the shore of the water. And people do. But if you're right there with like a sandcastle, it immediately comes in and washes you out. Well, that's all right. Let's just build it a little further back. But it gets a bigger wave. And you're constantly trying. This time it'll be better. We'll make it stronger. We'll build a wall around it. But it's never going to last. It's always going to be subject to the different influences of the material world. The adibhotic, the adiatmic, the adidaivic. I mean, it may be the ocean doesn't wash it away, but some bully comes along and kicks it down, or something like, or a dog comes along and pees all over it or something. There's always some other entities, or maybe it rains. The demigods send the rain, and it washes it away. So we can't ever find a permanent place in this material world. We can never be what we're not. What we are is servants. Prabhupada was talking in this one class, and he was talking about, well, first of all, he said, this is just a story. He didn't say it's a real story, he just said it's a story. And so, one time there was a person who was giving these Bhagavat Sattras. He was telling the Bhagavat, and he was telling about the 10th canto, and he started describing Krishna, and when he was a cowherd boy in the forest, but how much jewelry he had on, how much valuable jewelry. And one of the people in the audience was a thief. And when he heard about how much jewelry Krishna had and how valuable this jewelry was, he started to really think. He really got eager. I want to go see this Krishna. I want to know. I want to go find him. If I get some of that jewelry, I could be rich forever. This could be the biggest job of my life. And so he goes to Vrindavan, but they said, well, you can't just see Krishna. You have to be qualified. And so he says, no, I want to see him. I really want to see him. And Prabhupada said his qualification was his eagerness. He was eager to see Krishna, even though he had the wrong motive. And finally he does see Krishna. And he says, oh, you're so beautiful, but I really like your jewelry. Can I have your jewelry? No, you can't have my jewelry. My mother will be very angry if I don't come home with my jewelry. Oh, she won't know. It'll just be 1 or 2 pieces. Just say you lost them on your plane. No, my mother will know. She'll be very angry with me. Oh, okay. But he couldn't divorce himself from Krishna. He was so attracted to him. He was so beautiful. He was so much fun to be around. He just liked being with him and playing with him. And eventually, at some point, Krishna turns to him and says, all right, you can have my jewelry. And he says, I don't want your jewelry. I want you. It's that eagerness. Prabhupada was just saying, it's the eagerness that we develop. We finally become frustrated enough going through all these different species of life. Like it says in the purport that you desire these different bodies. And I'm thinking, why would I desire this one? I mean, or what was the desire that I become an amoeba? But it's just the reactions. It sets off a chain reaction. One action leads to another reaction, and it's on, and one thing leads to another. You may go into a situation completely innocently, and then you're associating with someone who's doing something, and then somehow or other that influences you, and then you find yourself going off this way, and it just keeps going, and you're in this banyan tree, just tied up. Or you've ever seen a bug that gets stuck in a spider's web. The more it struggles, the more it's wrapped up in it. You become very eager to get out of here. And that eagerness, Prabhupada said, the eagerness to get free, to see Krishna, that is our qualification. That's our qualification. And right now, we're being forced to cooperate with one another. We're being forced, not that I'm saying we don't want to, I'm just saying that Krishna creates situation that seems bad. It seems, oh, this is terrible, I want to go back. But it's a situation we should understand, like Queen Kunti says, in distress. That's when I see Krishna the most. So we're in that moment right now. We're getting a chance, even though this is annoying, that Krishna's bothering me. I can't stand putting this thing over my face. It fogs up my glasses. But it's respectful to others. And in this distress, then, we can see Krishna, we can take shelter. The only way I can get through this is by developing the qualities of Trinadapi Sumicena Tororeva Sahishnana Amanina Manadeva Ketana Sadhavi. Humble as a blade of grass, as tolerant as a tree, ready to give respect to everyone, and don't expect any for yourself, because you won't get it. But Lord Chaitanya said, as humble as a blade of grass. He didn't say as humble as Narad Muni. He said, as tolerant as Haridas Thakur. No, because we could never imitate them. But as a blade of grass, as tolerant as a tree, ready to give respect. And that's really the true mentality. It is our real mentality. When we get there, when we feel that, that's, maybe if we get glimpses of it, and then you can chant all the time. You never want to stop chanting, and you want other people to chant also. Anyway, I actually was trying to remember what I was supposed to say, and I couldn't remember, so I started talking.
Can I say something? I have to go. A lot of things you said make sense. Jayananda Prabhu, I'll start with that, I have 3 things to say. Jayananda Prabhu, we do take his picture every Rath Yatra when we go.
Yeah.
And it's always there. And the remembrance of him I always have is his smile, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That beautiful smile, you know, always in that one picture. So that's one thing. Another thing, we talked about fire. Sometimes there is a row of houses. You know how in the towns there is a row of houses?
Mm-hmm.
The first one is on fire for some reason. It's on fire. What do the one in the 5th house do? There are several things they can do. They run away, they leave, everything. But the best thing in this is common sense. Everybody from the rest of the houses should go and help that first one.
Yeah.
Because if you put that down, none of these houses are going to be affected. But generally they don't do that. You know, some of them will pack up everything, time to leave because it's going to come to us.
Right.
You know, common sense is that
Well,
go
that's a good
and help.
point. Yeah.
You know, go and help that fire, then it will not come here. That's another thing. The third one is very funny. It's about the dreams you're talking about. This happens in my house every twice a month. In the middle of the month, this man, my husband, will scream, Krishna, 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 like that. Scream so hard.
That's great.
I don't know that this is what I do.
No, because you want. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. This is what I do. I'm in a different room. So I'll run over there and I said, are you leaving now? What's going on? Are you going? Tell me. You know, and then he wakes up. He said, no, something got me. You know, and he does this very often, and I'm getting scared. You know?
No, you.
I go there, I said, are you leaving?
I'm glad you reminded me. This is one thing I want, because the last sentence here says, in this purport said, we get trained by listening to Sukadeva Goswami and Pariksit Maharaj. What are we being trained for? We're being trained for, because Pariksit Maharaj is about to leave his body.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you know, I've heard some conversations, and you were appreciating different devotees' classes, and it's true, we're training ourselves so that we can think about Krishna during the day and develop these qualities. But the ultimate thing is, we never know when it's going to happen. We're going to leave our bodies. And it's not like you have time to well, let me see, what do I want to take with me? Here's my sushi kit, and get some jewelry. I mean, when Colleen leaves that, I shouldn't have said, I know a woman who, she has a bag. She's got everything in there. So we're just going around the block. She's got to take, even when she comes over here, you always see her with the bag. She's got something, her water, her lozenges, this, that, you know. So, I mean, you don't have time for that. You know, one of my brothers was mad, complaining about my father at one point. He took all his old papers and everything, and he burnt them. And he was trying to go through everything to organize his affairs. And he said, he just took everything and burnt them. But I understand now. I can understand. Sometimes I doodle things. I write out little lines of poetry or something. I don't want people to see that. I don't want people going through my stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, this is for me personally. So at some point I have to start organizing my junk. But in any case, we don't have time to organize things. And we have to be prepared, and that's what these classes are for. These classes are to help us become, so that we have memories other than the silly memories of our schoolyard games.
Very true.
I have, So, anyway, I appreciate everybody coming today.
I wish a lot of people are here. Thank you so much.
No, that's all right.
It was so good.
Thank you for all this wonderful
The thing that's bothering me is I keep thinking about this one thing, a story I wanted to tell, and I can't remember it. That's what's
No.
bad.
Save it for the next
time. Let me write it down.
This is what
Yeah, I should get outside.
Hare Krishna.
time.